We move on to a question from Assembly Member Prince. It's about independent investigation into Croydon tram safety audits. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Chair. 10 days ago marked the 4th anniversary of the tragic Croydon tram crash. My thoughts remain with all those who lost their lives, were injured in, and who have been affected by the incident at Sandilands. TfL continues to do all we can to support everyone affected by the tragedy, and TfL has introduced a huge range of measures to ensure nothing like this ever happens again. I note that the senior coroner who was due to commence the Sandilands inquest last month has been obliged to adjourn the hearing until spring 2021 in light of the latest COVID-19 restrictions. TfL will continue to offer its full support and assistance to the coroner's inquest. TfL has always cooperated fully with all investigations following the tragedy at Sandilands, and has also fully explained and apologised unreservedly for the human error which meant that a single report commissioned following a separate incident on the tram network wasn't immediately shared with the regulators. I'm unclear that a further investigation would add value. The Rail Accident Investigation Branch, RAIB, carried out a thorough investigation into Sandilands, including forming an independent view on the issue. TfL also commissioned an independent investigation into Sandilands, as well as a separate fatigue audit. It was carrying out an audit in 2016 of trams management of operational risk, but this work was not concluded because it was superseded by the urgent investigation into the Sandilands tragedy. The RAIB was informed of the uncompleted audit. TfL has continued to work alongside the RAIB, the Office of Rail and Road, ORR, and First Group, who operate the tram network, to ensure all the recommendations made in response to this incident are met. Significant progress has been made on these recommendations, including the development of a tram safety body and the installation of emergency lighting within the trams. On Monday, a new automatic braking system came into full operation of the London network, a first for trams in the UK. The focus must now be on ensuring every practical safety measure is taken and adhered to, and making sure such a tragedy never happens again.
Assembly Member Prince.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm desperately trying to work with you on this, and unfortunately, some of what you said is simply not true. I don't accuse you of saying an untruth knowingly, but you know, it isn't true that TfL cooperated fully with the investigators. It isn't true that they cooperated fully with the police. Information was withheld, information wasn't passed over. I mean, you're a lawyer, Mr. Mayor. I mean, I don't know if you do know that the IA 13744 audit showed fatigue management as one of the 7 weaknesses, and yet that was never mentioned in the recommendations. I'm sure you may or may not know that in 1 month there were 3 different reports into fatigue management, and they just haven't really been seen through, or some of the results on those have been changed. The report conclusions have been amended on reports after talking with companies. Reports were kept from TfL's own safety panel. They were never made aware of the existence of certain reports. Reports were withheld from the rail investigators. Reports were withheld from the police. There was collusion between TfL and First Group to soften the conclusions of some of these reports. These are just some of the unusual incidences that have happened, Mr. Mayor, that anyone who was fair-minded would say, well, perhaps we should have a look at that and see why that's happened. Do you not see that, Mr. Mayor?
Well, firstly, Chair, it's not for me to give legal advice to the Assembly member, but he'll be aware that this hearing is not covered by privilege. So I'll ask him this question. Who is he making accusations against? Who is part of this conspiracy?
Well, that's, Mr. Mayor, is why I'm asking you to hold an investigation so we can find out if there is a conspiracy and who is to blame for this conspiracy.
Well, one of the assertions I made in your previous speech/question was that TfL hadn't been cooperated with various inquiries. That's just not the case. So TfL had been fully cooperating. No criticism made of them at all with the
Mr. Mayor, that simply is not true. That is not true.
Can the Mayor answer your question, please?
Send a report to the investigators. They did not send that report until the investigation had concluded, Mr. Mayor. You know that, and I know that. Look, it's not just me who's asking you to do this. There's a number of people, a number of organisations. We've got Michael Leabrick, who is a former board member. He's asking you to do this. Caroline Pidgeon, Assembly Member Caroline Pidgeon, she's asked you to do this. Tom Carney, Transport Safety Campaigner. Edward Thickness from City AM, he's saying that there's a smoking gun here. The London Assembly, we have voted to ask you to hold this investigation, Mr. Mayor. Even your own union, the GMB, have asked you to hold this investigation. We can't all be wrong, Mr.
Can you allow Mr. Mayor to answer the question, please? He was in the middle of doing that, actually. Mr. Mayor, please go ahead.
Sorry, Chair, I didn't hear a question.
It's about the
It's
investigation.
a very simple question. Will you hold an independent investigation into these reports?
No, as I said, Chair.
And I'm not asking you for me.
Can you allow
asking
him
you for
to?
the 7 organisations.
Assembly Member Prince.
Organisations I've just listed. I'm asking you, Mr. Mayor, to hold this independent investigation for the 7 families who lost their loved ones, who deserve to understand.
We got the point very loud and clear. Can we please have an answer from Mr. Mayor, if you allow him to
Let me
do
finish
so?
the question, and I will. But for those 7 families, Mr. Mayor, who deserve to know that everything was done and is being done and will be done to prevent this tragedy happening again, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Mayor, please.
Chair, so we've been on this question now for about 4 minutes, and finally, now at the end of the 4 minutes, he mentions the families. Now, all I say to him in a respectful way is this question isn't motivated by concern for the families. It's motivated for other reasons which he knows what they are. And what I'd say is there's going to be an inquest very soon. It'll begin in spring 2021. We hope the sooner the better. The coroner as well will get the full cooperation of Transport for London. And it's not true to assert, as has been asserted, that TfL haven't cooperated with the various inquiries. So TfL have cooperated with the RAIB. TfL have cooperated with British Transport Police. TfL have cooperated with the independent inquiry that TfL asked to be done. TfL are cooperating with the coroner's officers, and TfL have cooperated with every institution that's conducted an inquiry into what happened at Sandilands, which was an awful tragedy. It's the member who's talked about, in his words, a smoking gun, and it's the member who's caused an additional distress to the community. I think in due course, when there is an inquest, which should be in spring 21 commencing, I think it's really important for justice to take its course, because those families want to know exactly what happened, why it happened, and reassurance it can't happen again.
Well, I've got this question for you, Mr. Mayor, because I resent that you're accusing me of playing politics with this, because I'm not the only one who's asking this question, Mr. Mayor. It's not just my party, it's virtually every party on the Assembly is asking this question of you, Mr. Mayor, and I resent you trying to play politics in that way. And my question to you is, are you aware that misleading evidence was given by TfL to one of the panels? And are you happy, Mr. Mayor, that you, knowing all the wrongdoings that are going on, all these smoking guns that are firing, are you able to sleep at night, Mr. Mayor? That's my question to you.
I mean, Chair, we've gone from the sublime to the ridiculous. Let me just respond to this fully, because I think it's really important, Chair, because serious allegations have been made, for me to respond to this fully. At the 22nd of January 2018 meeting of the TfL Safety, Sustainability and Human Resources panel, the Chair asked if the audit report had been sent to the external bodies investigating the Sandilands incident, having previously proposed that this should be done. TfL's then Director of Health and Safety said she believed it had been sent but would confirm. Following the meeting, it was discovered that the audit report had not, in fact, been sent to the external bodies. TfL's former Health and Safety Department was responsible for sharing the audit report with the external bodies. In error, it was not sent as originally thought. This was clearly an oversight, which was rectified as soon as TfL realised that this had occurred. TfL's Director of Health and Safety contacted the chair of the Safety, Sustainability Human Resources panel to inform him of the error, to apologise and to confirm that the audit report had now been sent.
Right.
Chairman, I'm not going to prolong this. He knows
Okay,
full
thank you.
well. He's seen some of
Thank
the
you.
evidence. He knows full well of the inaccuracies that have been going on, the deliberate obstruction that's been going on. He himself,
Unless there's a question, I
will
think
have to answer when the inquiry is finished. Thank you.
Assembly Member O'Connell has indicated he wants to come in on this question.
Yes, if I may, Chair, thank you very
Sure.
much. It's my constituency. I was there post-event, massive tragedy for the people of Croydon, and I thank all those people who supported, all those organisations and people who supported at that time and continue to support. And yes, it's regrettable that the inquest, which was supposed to be held only a couple of weeks ago, has been put off to the new year. And I join in, more in sort of sadness and in anger, in supporting a request for some work to be done independently on this, not least to close down these outstanding concerns. And I think that is important. And this is obviously not politics at play from me. It may well be that the inquest itself and the terms of reference could include somehow some of these outstanding issues in their deliberations. But I do support and suggest that whilst there are outstanding questions that will hover and that won't go away, they need addressing properly, not least and probably most importantly, to put the minds at rest of those people who are most directly affected. So I support this suggestion. I know it's difficult for everybody, but let's try to seek justice and peace for those people who've been affected, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Well, Chair, let me respond to that question. It's really important.
There was a question in there.
Yeah.
That's all Mr. Chair.
It's really important that I'd like to respond to that question. I'm still unclear what the point would be of a further investigation, particularly, and this is something that neither of the previous two questioners can address. The RAIB carried out a thorough investigation into Sandilands, including forming an independent view on the issue. In fact, TfO was carrying out an audit of, in 2016, nobody's denying that, of TRAM's management of operational risk. Evidence gathering was nearing completion with report drafting underway when the Sandilands crash took place on the 9th of November. And it was in light of this tragic event it was decided it would not be appropriate to continue with finalising the report at that time. And it was because it was superseded by the vital investigations into the Sandilands tragedy. And my concerns about both interventions made from the previous two speakers is they are adding to the anxiety, the stress and the sorrow of that community in Croydon. There's going to be an inquest very soon. The inquest will commence in spring. The reason why the inquest was because of the COVID-19 restrictions, and TfL, as you would expect them to do so, are fully cooperating, as they have been with the RAIB, with the independent investigation, and with the ORR, with the BTP. They'll be cooperating with the coroner and the inquest.